think you'll agree that one of the most colorful and appealing creatures of the insect world is the butterfly. A butterfly doesn't bite or sting or eat our food or crawl over it. He is almost always beautiful and quite compatible with man, or woman in fact. On the other hand, one of the most unappealing and distasteful insects to most of us is the crawling, creeping caterpillar, greedily chewing up a favorite plant in our garden. And yet, the butterfly and the caterpillar are actually the same insect at different stages in life. As you probably know, there are many, many varieties of butterflies. In our story, we will take a close look at this beautiful fellow. The common name of this variety is the anise swallowtail because it prefers to lay its eggs on the anise plant. Its scientific name is Papilio zellicaum. At first glance, the zellicaum is sometimes mistaken for the monarch butterfly because his coloration and markings are somewhat similar. The zellicaum, or anise swallowtail, is found mainly in the western United States, ranging from southern California clear up to Vancouver Island, and east as far as Arizona and Colorado. In the adult stage, our butterfly feeds mainly on the nectar from flowers. He has a long hollow tongue, or proboscis, which coils up like a watch spring when not in use. When sucking the nectar from flowers, he uses it like a soda straw. Extended to its full length, the tongue is sometimes as much as 1.5 inches long. Sometimes it also becomes a handy gadget for use in hanging onto a branch. You probably think of a butterfly as having 2 wings. Notice that he really has 4. The wings are covered with these tiny scales. The scales produce the colors which you see. Butterflies and moths all have scales on their wings similar to this, which accounts for this insect order being named Lepidoptera. The word Lepidoptera comes from Greek words meaning scaly wing. Like a housefly, our butterfly has 2 compound eyes. Compound eyes have hundreds of tiny lenses instead of 1 big lens as in our eyes. As an adult, he sees quite well. As a caterpillar, he can probably only distinguish between light and dark with rudimentary eyes called ocelli. Mating usually takes place high in the air, and soon the female starts looking for an anise plant. The true name of this plant is sweet fennel, but it is often erroneously called anise in this country. Sweet fennel was originally imported and grown for food purposes. It spread like a weed. I've planted some sweet fennel in our backyard to attract these butterflies. This simplified study in photography. If the female butterfly can't find the plant she prefers, she may lay her eggs on a carrot or parsley plant, but she prefers anise or fennel. Sweet fennel smells like licorice when crushed. The young shoots are sweet and succulent and are good in salad. Well, anyway, most people like it. When the female finds a plant to her liking, she deposits several tiny yellow-green eggs. And we have just witnessed the first of our butterfly's 4 birthdays. We can tell how tiny the egg is by comparison with the head of a pin. In a few days, the egg changes color, and in about 10 days, with a magnifying glass, you can actually see the little caterpillar inside. And so, at birthday number 2, the egg becomes a baby caterpillar. He usually eats most of the eggshell before he settles down to the important business of eating sweet fennel. At this point, he can only eat the soft skin and juices of the plant, but he eats almost continually. He was about a 1/16 of an inch long at birth. Here, just 36 hours later, he is almost 6 times as big. He eats and grows almost unbelievably fast, so fast, in fact, that his skin can't keep up with it. Notice how tight it's becoming. Suddenly, he begins to make some odd movements. His skin splits, and out he comes with a brand new skin. This new skin has colored stripes, which help to camouflage him and make him harder to see in the fennel plant. He sheds his skin like this at least twice during his life as a caterpillar, once when he's very small. Nothing goes to waste. He eats the old skin. During this period of his life, he eats tremendous quantities of food. A dozen caterpillars can almost strip of sweet fennel plant in a few days, even though this plant grows exceptionally fast. Soon, the ground beneath the plant is covered with droppings. To show how rapidly he grows, these shots were taken exactly 1 day apart, with the same lens, the same distance from the camera. Day number 6, 1 week, 8 days, 9 days, 10, 11 days in a new skin, 12, 13 days, and he's almost 2 inches long. Suddenly, one day, he becomes nervous and starts to climb down out of the plant that has been his home. It seems that this spot has already been staked out. Oh well, there's no use getting violent about it. This looks good. As he climbs up the branch, he spins a web of silk. Look closely in these close-ups of the head, and you can see the silk coming out of a small... He spins the silk almost continually while climbing. He uses it as a sort of safety rope, as you see here. The silk is very strong, One strand will support him if he falls, and he can climb up practically any surface by making a ladder of silk. Here we see him climbing up a piece of glass. However, now he has other purposes than climbing in mind. First, he covers the branch of his choice almost completely with the silk. Then he weaves one big wad of silk. He gets above this and performs these acrobatics. On the underside of his tail, there are two rings of stiff bristles. These become entangled in the wad of silk. When they're firmly secured, he settles down. Then he starts the intricate job of weaving a special loop. An amazing thing about these and other insects is the tremendous amount of knowledge that they are born with. No one teaches them to do all this. We call it instinct, but wouldn't it be nice if we could be born with knowledge that our ancestors had learned? Say maybe a knowledge of mathematics through calculus? When the loop is complete to his satisfaction, he shrugs under it. "20 or 25 strands of silk, relatively almost as strong as a steel cable." Now he settles down to sleep while strange changes start to take place within his body. The body gradually begins to change shape. It arches back from the stem until it's entirely supported by the silk. By the way, this is a different caterpillar from the first one we were watching. It is of somewhat darker coloration. The shiny black things you see toward the top are his front feet, tucked up under his chin. A few days after he first attaches himself to the branch, his occasional twitching becomes more violent, and suddenly the skin breaks. This is sort of like trying to get out of a girdle with a belt on and your hands tied behind your back. Birthday number 3. He is now in the pupa or chrysalis stage. On contact with the air, the chrysalis hardens and changes color. They usually are a light green color at first, gradually darkening with age. However, sometimes they will be quite different colors. They may attach themselves to any convenient surface. It is probably only coincidence, but often they seem to assume the coloration of the surface they are upon. One day, I noticed what seemed to be a tiny fly on a chrysalis. Closer investigation showed it to be a little wasp, and it turned out that this tiny fellow is probably the worst enemy that our anise butterfly has. He is less than 1/8 of an inch long and has the mouth-filling name Pteromelus puparum. Research showed that he was imported from Europe years ago to control the white cabbage butterfly. The female has a long, sharp needle, or ovipositor, under the central part of her body. Here she is using the needle to laboriously drill a hole in the hard chrysalis. Look closely under the body and you can see the needle. When the drilling is complete, it appears that she lays her eggs in the hole. The butterfly chrysalis cannot move, of course, except to twitch a little, and is completely helpless. So this tiny little wasp, about the size of a gnat, is probably the main reason that the anise butterfly is not much more plentiful than it is. If the chrysalis is cut open in a few days, it will be almost completely filled with these tiny larvae. Soon thereafter, holes appear, and out come the newly hatched wasps. The first thing they do as adults is to mate. Then they fly off, and all that is left is the dead shell of our chrysalis. During the caterpillar stage, one of the ways he discourages enemies is to stick out these orange horns. They give off an offensive odor, and probably this discourages birds. He can even put out his horns after he has gone into his sleep at this stage. However, one enemy that it takes more than a bad odor to discourage is the praying mantis. This comical appearing fellow, in spite of his appearance, is one of the most voracious killers in the insect world. He affects a bouncing walk when stalking. This fools his intended prey into thinking he is a leaf or a twig blown by the wind. A praying mantis will attack almost any insect. It looks like he has decided to try a little butterfly for dessert. butterfly has excellent eyesight and good strong wings, and it's a different story this time. If our chrysalis is lucky enough to survive his enemies, one day a crack appears. If it is the middle of summer, this may happen in about 10 days, or if later in the season, it may take longer. The crack widens. Then a last desperate effort, and out comes a slightly bedraggled-looking butterfly. This is his final and fourth birthday. He's now an adult butterfly. The blood starts to pump into his wings, and they begin to take shape. Finally, they are normal size, and he hangs them out to dry. If something interferes with the drying process and they don't dry straight, he will not be able to fly. And so we have seen all four of our butterflies' birthdays, the complete life cycle. We started as an adult, then the egg, larva or caterpillar, pupa or chrysalis, and finally the adult again. This whole process, the changing from one form to another, is known as metamorphosis. The purpose of our little story has been to point out that we are often so busy that we don't even see the wonderful and beautiful things that surround us.
Sidney! I thought you told me you were going to photograph butterflies.
Yes, dear. As I was saying, the purpose of our little story has been to point out that we are surrounded by wonderful and interesting things if we will just take the time and trouble to notice.